It is finally done here, guys. 160 hours later, I have finally beaten 100% for the most part Metaphor ReFantazio. This will be a non-spoiler review using a combination of the official Atlus footage and a little bit of my own. Metaphor ReFantazio is not only the best game released this year, in my humble opinion, it's also my favorite Atlus game of all time and one of the greatest RPGs ever made. But before we get into all that, what's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and let me know what your favorite Atlus or RPG games are in the comment section below. Now, this review was interesting to do because I haven't done one of these 100+ hour reviews in quite some time, but I actually love doing them whenever I get a chance to beat a game that has the amount of content and actually can keep my brain entertained for that long. So that goes to show you how good this game is. I don't spend 100+ hours into games that I don't like. If I don't like a game, even if it does have amount of content to beat 100 hours, I don't spend that time in there. The fact that I spent 160 hours in Metaphor ReFantazio, and I'm telling you right now, I am not joking, I was not sick of any part of the game. I never got tired of the gameplay. I never decided that I was going to quit and drop the game. I never felt like it was dragging on. I felt that every single piece of new content or person that I met or story or gameplay aspect, there was always something new happening. There was always something new and fresh coming in. There was always a new place that we were going to. There was new ideals that I had to have. There was different people to talk to. It was just an exciting experience from start to finish, for me at least. And I think that what brings this game to life first is the amazing cast. The cast is awesome. At first, when you see them, you're like, Hulkenberg, Stroll, like what's going here? Heisman, like who are these people? They look weird, they've got weird names, but by the end of the adventure, you're going to absolutely love all of them. They all have their own plot points, they all have their own ideals and what they strive for, their own regrets, their own, I would say, sorrow. It is fantastic as you build your bonds with each of these characters through different events using the patented calendar system that we all know and love, and maybe some of you guys hate, from Persona or even like Fire Emblem, Three Houses, or just the typical Atlus Persona games. You will get to see so much, and I found actually finding out who each of these characters are in this setting is far more engaging to me than anything that I've played in any Persona game. And that's really because of the setting, because I do like the fantasy setting of it, but I loved the cast. I thought it was great. For me, my personal favorite is probably Heisman. He's this like bat animal looking thingy, and he's really cool. I love his story. It's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it fills you with passion and invigorates you to fight for him and what he's going through. So I loved Heisman. I thought he was great, but I also loved Hulkenberg. I liked the comedy setting that she kind of brings because she's a bit of a foodie and she kind of tries to turn anything into food at times. So it's great to see that. And overall, like seeing like a noble like Stroll and some of his struggles and what happened to his family and how he has to live up to his royal name, to his family lineage, is just awesome. Like, it's such a great and good cast. So overall, I thought it was great. I'm not going to spoil some of the other characters that are later, but man, I really enjoyed the cast here and definitely one of the best things about the game. But let's get into the actual game, because that's what's important about any game that you play. The gameplay has to be great. And I'm telling you right now, I love the class system. Now, I am more of a class system guy over a non-class system person. So the fact that you can have different classes that you can swap in and out whenever you want, but it's how you get those classes, how you evolve those classes, and what those classes can do. They have built in an ingenious system that, to me, fixes a lot of the issues with some of the other class systems when you max out a class system and really you're just wasting experience points because you like that class system and you want to keep using it, but there are other classes that need to be leveled up to where you can take skills from and swap and match, but you don't feel like moving off of it because that class is really good for that character. This game actually fixed that, because The cool thing about it, you can have, let's say, a warrior, you have a mage, you have a healer, you have all these different classes. And once you max them out to level 20, even after they've been maxed out to level 20 and you've learned every skill, you can continue earning experience. And after you get 1,000 experience in that class, you get a little light seed that gives you experience that you can use on any other class, any other job, or they call it archetype, any other archetype that you want to use. So it makes it to where if you have someone or you have a couple people that you love what class they are and you don't want to move off of it, but you still want to earn experience to build them up later down the line or with someone else, you can do that. It completely fixes the class/job system that I've had an issue with so many other games. And I'm wondering to myself, what other games have done this? Like, I'm not sure how many other games have actually done this. Usually you just waste the experience if you're using that class that's already maxed out. So it incentivizes you to switch off of that and go towards something different. And then of course, most job systems, it allows you to take any of the skills that you've learned within that job and then put that on with a limited number of slots on a different job. So this game allows you to do that. As you build your bonds, you will be able to get more slots for each archetype. So I'm just going to start calling it the archetype. It's class, job, whatever you want to call it, but it's called an archetype. Each one of these things are called that. So I thought that was really, really good. And that factors all in to the gameplay. The archetypes are really cool. They're like personas, but instead of you having to fuse and change and do a bunch of different ones, you essentially can have each archetype and they evolve. So the archetype evolves like a Pokemon, essentially. Once you get certain requirements, you can evolve that archetype, and then that archetype learns new different abilities that, once again, you can share between any archetype that you want as long as you master the skill, and you can put it into a slot later down the line. So I love the gameplay. And as you go through the game, you're not going to be able to learn every single thing with every single archetype on a single playthrough unless you really grind through. So it does incentivize you to actually have some replay value and play it again so you can max out everything. And let's talk about how you're actually using these archetypes and the job system that they have here. The game is a split. It's more of a turn-based RPG, but it has a hybrid system kind of locked into play here to where you start out, you'd be running around on the map, wherever you are, fighting, and you can fight in real time. And then once you start hitting people in real time, you can stun them and then knock them into the turn-based battle. Now, if you're strong enough, once you get strong enough, more like it, on the map, you can instantly knock out enemies from the overworld, and then there is no battle. You just instantly get the experience and then keep it moving. A lot of times, once you're in dungeons, if you've leveled up quite a bit or if you're over leveled for a certain area, you'll just knock them out in one hit, you'll get the experience, and that can lead to being able to level up very quickly depending on the circumstances and conditions in the game. So I found myself never really getting tired of the gameplay, because if I'm not strong enough in an area, I know, hey, I got to start getting a little bit stronger. I can knock these people in there. I'm going to get a good enough experience. Everything's going to be good. If I'm already strong enough for that area, I can grind through. I can do different items and skills to make sure that I get items from them, and I can continue to go on and build up the way that I want to build up. So it was a perfect grind/gameplay system that always kept me in the loop of just feeling fun and fresh overall. I could grind for as long as I want in any type of dungeon, or I could move on if I felt like moving on at that point. The gameplay, when it comes down to the different abilities and skills, are so fun. I loved being able to have all these different classes, being able to go through the battles. It's sleek. It's awesome. The UI and the menus are so cool. This is probably Atlus's strongest strength when it comes to stuff outside of the gameplay. The UI for this game, when you're picking the battles, which I do factor into the gameplay, being able to see it very clearly, it being very fast and smooth, transitioning battles load up very quickly on the PlayStation 5. So it was just awesome to go through and play. And as you're playing, you feel like this little bit of, I don't know, visceral feedback from when you hit an enemy, from when you do a certain spell that just completely destroys stuff on screen, when you hit somebody really hard and get a critical. It has that patented press turn system. Anytime you actually get a critical hit or you have a weakness, you get another turn. And they've made a few tweaks here and there, but the flexibility within this system to be able to just do so many different things with the classes, and I'm not going to spoil some of the later classes, but the strategies get more and more intense as you learn different archetypes, as you unlock different ones and evolve your archetypes, it just gets to the point to where you can really just completely be almost invincible at times if you know what you're doing. I did play this game on the hard difficulty. I wanted a challenge. Heck, I would have played it on the hardest difficulty if I could at the beginning, but they don't allow you to. I am going back for a second playthrough on the hardest difficulty that unlocks after you beat it on the hard difficulty. And I'm telling you this right now, man, like I had so much fun doing different types of strategies, really unlocking different types of abilities with the archetypes, customizing my team to make sure that I had the best way to fight. There were times with certain optional bosses and special bosses that I was getting absolutely cooked, but the gameplay is so fun and engaging. You don't necessarily need to level up or grind too much for something. You can actually pick different skills and abilities and find a different way to take down that enemy. Another incredible aspect about the game is the synthesis system, which essentially works like a dual tech and triple tech system based off of what class that you are. You have certain skills that become available for a certain amount of points and MP that can just unleash havoc on the battlefield or give you great buffs or guard against certain attacks or debuff the enemy. It's absolutely a necessity, and mixing and matching your skills and your classes in order to get certain stuff is awesome to see and absolutely needed when it comes to beating the toughest bosses that are out there and some of the other things that the game does offer. Items, equipment, and armor are also very important. A lot of them have abilities to stop certain status effects from affecting you or potentially even inflict status effects on the enemies. Your luck, your strength, magic attack, defense, all of that plays a part into it. So how you build your characters, how you build your main character, and how you build everything else is so important in this game. So the gameplay is so fun. The gameplay is so good, and I enjoyed it so much to the point to where I never really got tired of it. And I went from saying, man, I can't wait for Persona 6 to be revealed before I played Metaphor ReFantazio to, man, I can't wait for Metaphor ReFantazio Golden or Metaphor ReFantazio Royal or Metaphor ReFantazio Vengeance Edition, or Metaphor ReFantazio DLC. Give me something from this game, Atlus, and as soon as possible, while also upholding the quality of this game. So gameplay-wise, loved it. Archetype system, goated. So much fun overall with the game. Now let's talk a little bit about the setting and the story, which there will be no spoilers when it comes to the story, so don't worry guys, I'm not spoiling anything here. So the setting is fantasy, and I'll tell you right now, I hate to keep on bringing up Persona and stuff like that, but it's almost unavoidable because of how structured the game is, kind of like Persona, like with the clock system or like the calendar system and all that. But I'll say this, the setting to me makes it so much better. I'm not in high school anymore, obviously I'm older than that, and I'm not the dating thing and all that, I'm married. So it's like, for me, the whole setting of the high school and like the, children going out dating and things like that type of stuff, it's cool and I get it and it's fun to do that or live in that world, but I am far more interested in a fantasy setting, like a Xenoblade setting or like a Fire Emblem setting where you have essentially adults for the most part fighting in this type of world, and it's not like a real world setting like where you're in Japan or Shibuya or whatever the case, and you're going into some weird alternate type of thing. It's actually the world that they're living in normally as adults. So for me, at least, I love this setting way more than any other Atlus game that I've played. SMT is great too. It doesn't always have that type of school setting. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But for me, this was the best setting because I do love Xenoblade. I do love Fire Emblem. And this kind of reminded me of those type of fantasy settings. And I loved the world. I loved the characters. I loved everything that was surrounding it. It was just great to go through and see so many different types of places. So the setting was great. And the story really complements what they're doing. The story has this really weird, I would say, vibe to it, to where you have no idea what's really going on and you're learning things as you go along, as a memorandum where you can go back and look at any main point in there. But what I love the most about the story is that it kind of tells of many things that parallel the real world. You have this huge kingdom of Acronia. You have these people that are being oppressed, many people that are being oppressed. You have people that sit at the top, certain races that sit at the top, people that sit at the bottom, and you see the discrimination that comes with being with a certain type of race. Obviously, it still happens, but people IRL and in this world, there are some that still want to fight for a better future for themselves and for their offspring. So I loved that in this game. By the start of it, you really see what people say, but as you go along and build different bonds and solve different problems for people, that slowly fades away and they accept you for who you are and what you've done. They accept you on your merit, not based off of what race you are. So I love that about the story. I think that the plot points are really good. You go through, you play as a character, I guess canon-wise, his name is Will, and essentially you're trying to save the prince who got a nasty spell cast on him as he was running away at an attack at the royal palace. Then what happened there was that the king fell into a deep depression and was essentially executed by a militaristic mastermind named Luis. And for the past 10 years, the prince has been sitting there with this curse, the rightful heir to the kingdom. But as the king was executed, he put together this royal magic that made a race to the crown. So anybody that gathered enough support from the people would be able to be crowned king. And that's where Luis and that's where all these other characters that you meet really go into this crazy race to become the next king. And that's where you come in there as well. And I'm telling you, there's twists and turns and things that happen that you would not expect at all. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, no story spoilers, but I insanely enjoyed the story and I thought it was fantastic. There were some things that you can kind of see coming, but there were other things that you did not see coming at all. And it was very, very, very fun. So I'll just leave it at that. Now let's talk about the music, because the music is absolutely incredible. It has this weird, I would say, like opera slash like rhyming rap vibe to it at times. Not like beats like rap, but the way that they're speaking is pretty fast. And it's really funny, but it's also really good at the same time. I loved the normal battle theme. I liked the dungeon setting music. I liked the boss battle music, the sub-boss battle music, the main boss battle music. I loved the character intros and themes for like Luis and all that, like that menacing like theme. It was just so good overall. Now, it could have been great if they maybe added a few more songs here and there, but overall, I thought that the music was great. One of my personal favorites too is also Etria. That place is great. Like, it has like this weird little, I would say like vibe to it, kind of like weird vocals that kind of him in and out. I really enjoyed the music. I thought it was fantastic. I thought they did a great job with it. Definitely one of the better soundtracks out there. And probably like my favorite soundtrack is the Academia theme. Like, that is so good, where you go meet Moore and he is the one who helps you level up your archetypes. He gives you missions to do to understand the archetypes more. You can go there to create different type of experiments, masks, and different things for your archetypes. So it's actually pretty cool. And that theme is just great. It feels majestic. It feels, I would say, royal. It feels stylish, but at the same time, like classy. Like, it's hard to describe everything about this, but it's just some of the best music that I've heard. So yeah, they went in on the music. It's fantastic. Now let's get into some of the dungeon design and bosses. Many of the bosses here are called humans. That's one of the things that Luis is doing when it comes to the story. These humans are these crazy monsters that are being unleashed in different parts of the world, and you have to take a lot of them down. And the boss designs are just really grotesque and kind of nasty, kind of like twisted actual real life humans like us, you know, like twisted versions of them and different types of things. I really enjoyed the boss battles. A lot of them have different gimmicks to them. You have to eliminate certain parts of the body in order for them to not unleash certain attacks. And I liked it very much like Persona. There are certain things that happen, and I really enjoyed it from that perspective. I thought the bosses were really fun to play through. And I felt that the dungeons are good for the most part. Like, the main dungeons are pretty good, but there are some repetitive type of side dungeons, repetitive tower type of stuff that looks very much the same. So I wish there was a little bit more variety in some of the dungeon design and some of the dungeons that play out. But all of the main areas that you go to are pretty good, but I did feel like there could have been a little bit more variety in that dungeon design. But I really, really enjoyed it. I think that it all comes together with the story and the gameplay and the characters and all of that. The side quests are a lot of fun, and what you could do there too. I felt like how you even travel in this game with the gauntlet runner going from place to place is really cool. The music in there is also awesome. So to me, everything just really kind of came together. There are some other little minor things as well. So for example, the archetype system, not being able to have loadouts to where you can quickly swap between, like, let's say you want to have a healer, two healers, a mage, and also like a brute strength, right? Like a warrior or a brawler, and you want to be able to quickly swap to that, or let's say all healers for the most part, or something, whatever you want to do, right? There is no quick swap menu. This is something that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 added after a while. They added, like, oh, people want to be able to quick swap different loadouts. So it would have been nice if that would have been there from the beginning. They did not have that, and hopefully if there is an update, or hopefully if there is another version of the game, they actually have that in there, because I did find myself going in many times based on what I wanted to do and having to swap out instead of just having something where I can quickly load and maybe save, like, let's say 3 different loadouts for me to just go through and play. So that was a little bit of a knock, but overall it was not to deter from the game itself. Like, 160 hours I put into this game, and I know I've been saying a lot of positive with very little negative, but honestly, there is very little negative with this game in my honest opinion. I think it's fantastic. I think the gameplay is fun, which is the most important. I think the cast is great. I think that it has engaging rewards for actually going through and playing and doing the different things in the game, like the side quests, and also the rewards that you get for that, the items, the weapons, how you actually fight. Everything is just done in a certain way to where it keeps you wanting to play and wanting to play and wanting to play, which is why I spent 160 hours and it felt like 6 hours at times. Like, it's not like I'm tired from the journey. I actually have never done this, at least not in any recent JRPG that I've played, but I almost immediately restarted on New Game Plus after I beat the game, because I wanted to get back in and see what happens afterwards. So for me, it was a blast, and it is absolutely, if there's a thing of a 10 out of 10 for a game, this is absolutely it. 10 out of 10 is my score. It's fantastic. There's a few things here and there, quality of life features that could have improved the experience. The dungeon design could have been a bit more varied at times, especially when it comes to side quests. But the overall design of the game, the overall gameplay, the archetype system, the cast, the music, everything was great. Obviously, the graphics could have been a little bit better, but it was smooth. I think the art style really reigns supreme here. The art in the game is fantastic. The anime cutscenes are also great. So, Metaphor ReFantazio, 10 out of 10 score for me. Now, what do you guys think overall about Metaphor ReFantazio? What are your thoughts on the game if you've played it? What would your score be for it? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.